would like to welcome all of you to this last webinar of the year. We thought it was a good closure for our 2023 webinar to talk about how the market is doing and what are the careers and opportunities available in the real estate industry. So to discuss this, I am delighted to have Toby Speke, Director of Hanning Recruitment, to discuss this subject. Toby, thank you very much for being here with us today. So I would like to give you a little bit background of about Toby Speke. So he leads a team of experts who specialize in matching top candidates to their dream jobs in real estate. With over 10 years of industry experience, Toby has the market knowledge of both commercial and residential property sector, as well as an extensive network of contacts. So Toby's approach is tailored to meet each client's individual needs, and he understands the accuracies of real estate, and securing a successful placement is his priority. Integrity is at the heart of everything Toby and his company do, and he's passionate about strengthening business and driving success in the real estate industry. Also, Hanning Recruitment is in partnership with Bayfield Training, so we can provide great discounts on our real estate financial modeling courses to people or candidates that go to Hanning and need to enhance this essential skill. So this interview will last 20 minutes, and then we will open the floor for Q&A. So you have any questions throughout the presentation, or well, in this case, the interview, do please use the Q&A and or the chat area, which is at the bottom of your screen, and we will address all your questions at the end of the interview. So let's start the interview now, but before I go into the questions I prepared for Toby today, I would like to ask Toby whether he would like to add anything else about my introduction.
Yeah, well, hello, everyone. Yeah, I suppose just to kind of reiterate, we're 100% real estate focused. I suppose what maybe makes me a bit different is I was at Knight Frank. I got qualified as a chartered surveyor myself. So I've been through what maybe some of you are about to go through, trying to get on a grad scheme, complete a grad scheme, look for a job after a grad scheme, or stay at, I was at Knight Frank for 5 or 6 years. At Hanning, we cover primarily kind of 4 areas: investment, development, asset management, and the finance kind of real estate lending side. And that's us kind of in a nutshell. We work with big companies from, with 20, 50, 60, 70 billion AUM globally to a 2-man developer looking to kind of grow their space. We are sector agnostic. We can cover all sectors. We do slightly follow the market in terms of, beds and sheds, logistics, industrial, and build to rent, student accommodation. Retirement living has been a real good kind of sector for us, or sectors for us of late. But yeah, that in a nutshell is kind of us.
Great. Thank you very much, Toby. So after this introduction, I would like to jump into the first question I have created for you. So the first question is, how is the current state of the hiring market in the real estate industry, and what are the trends and dynamics that are influencing it?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. The market has had its challenges this year, with interest rates, cost of debt, inflation all being quite high. Transaction levels, you don't have to look very far, that transaction levels have definitely been down. That being said, there's still plenty of opportunistic companies out there. We still remained pretty busy all year round. I would definitely say the intensity in the market has not come back necessarily since the summer. I think due to transaction levels down, there's a lot of clients saying Q1 next year, but we can't fight the market. It is what it is. And, we've come out of a very good market. So, simple as I say to my team here and I speak to, we need to go through the bad times to get to the good times again. But there are still people hiring, and there's just certain sectors that are busy. We've been a lot busier on the debt side. That's because, as the large banks have said, unless you hit our exact requirement, we're not going to lend on it, which means actually these challenger banks, or these small kind of private credit, real estate funds, they've been cleaning up. And, we're working with one client that had a £150 million loan book. start of last year, they'll probably have £1 billion loan book by this Christmas. And so that growth is rapid. And so those are kind of the trends that we're seeing. I think it will be Q1 next year where I think a lot of people will be looking to hire again. So yeah, it's certainly an interesting market out there, but there's always stuff happening, which is good.
Great. And so how is the approach to recruitment and talent acquisition within the real estate sector at the moment?
Yeah,
under this current economic climate, of course.
Yeah, the approach is, look, clients are being super picky because, you know, if we were having this conversation last year, or let's say last kind of June, July, August, you know, we were the candidates were in control because there wasn't enough talent out there really to service a lot of the roles that we had. We were speaking to candidates just simply saying, I've got 6 other interviews, you know, pay me what I need to be paid and I'll go there type thing. Whereas now there's a lot more candidates in the market, but there's not as many roles. So the clients are now back in control of the process, which means they're just being a lot picky. Processes are taking longer. They're wanting to find exactly the right thing. You know, no one seems to be in a mad rush to hire at the moment, which means that processes can drag on a little bit. But yeah, I think it's always up to the candidate in these situations to look at upskilling yourself. Do you do a Bayfield course? You know, the real estate market, we'll get onto it, but one of the biggest trends is the analytical side. So, you know, do you upskill? You know, if you're at the really junior end, maybe some of you are still at university looking to get that first. Make sure you're doing loads of, you know, internships, work experience, you know, do what other people aren't going to be doing to put yourself at the top of the pile effectively.
Okay. Yeah, great, Toby. So moving on into the essential skills, what are the essential skills that aspiring professionals should possess when seeking entry-level positions in the real estate sector? And also, what makes real estate an excellent career choice?
Well, first off, I think what makes real estate a good choice, or the reason why I like it, is that there's not actually, I'm sure you'll all think of lots of other examples probably, but you know, you can really see real estate. It is all around us. I'm sitting in an office. This office needs to be bought and sold at some point. It needs to be asset managed, property managed. It needs to be developed. It's just had a refurb. So an asset manager would have refurbed it and been in control of that. You know, it is all around us. And you can physically see it. So when you go into real estate and you buy and sell something, or you get a tenant in, it's a very kind of transactional, hands-on experience and a physical experience that you see. Also, it's a real kind of people-based industry. And I think if you enjoy that, which kind of leads on to the skill sets and things of an entry-level individual, I'd say there's so many networking events that happen within the real estate industry, whether you're a grad, whether you're 10 years experience, 2 years experience, 20 years experience. There's so many events, conferences happening. Get along to them, because that's where you meet a ton of people. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that I like about the real estate industry in that. And then kind of within skill sets, it's, if you're at the very junior end here and say you're still at university looking for your first job, you're not necessarily going to be hired because you've got 2 years experience and you can do all of that. A lot of it's going to come down to attitude. And since COVID especially, we've seen attitude come to the top of our clients list, because more people have flexible working. Not your boss isn't going to, maybe you'll be in the office 5 days a week, but your boss won't be in the office 5 days a week. So someone that they can trust with the right attitude is really important. Now, at a young level, it can be hard to demonstrate that, but it comes back to the point. If you've done loads of internships and you've worked hard during your summer holidays or your uni holidays, it again shows that your desire and your attitude is right, because you're trying to put yourself out there and get as much experience as possible. So I really think as like a foundation skill set that everyone should try to do is showcase your attitude. You know, people love to know, are you into sport because you do this? Are you into reading and you're diligent and you do that? You know, show them what you're kind of interested in and why you would work hard and be a good fit. You know, a really common thing that we hear from clients at the moment is just, I just need someone that's going to really kind of knuckle down, work hard, especially at the junior end. You're there slightly to make the people above you's life easier, take stuff off their plate to allow them to do their job. And it leads on quite nicely to Bayfield. Another skill set, probably number 2 or closely linked, is on the whole, real estate is turning very analytical. As more sophisticated capital is in real estate now compared to 10, 15 years ago, analytical capabilities is what so many people are looking for. And I advise most people that I speak to, if you can't model already, go do Bayfield or go do a modeling course that allows you to at least be able to do that. Because if you're going to go for analyst positions at some point, it's one of the very few roles. Yes, other roles you get given, what do you think of this building? How would you develop it? What would you turn it into? But analyst positions, you get given a modeling test. You either pass it or you fail it. You may be the best person in the world for the role, and they might love you to bits and be fantastic for the team. But if you can't pass the modeling test, you don't get the job. So, if that's especially down the analyst route that we're seeing that more and more, that just that really good financial capability is super important.
Yeah, and to add to that, we have actually finding quite a lot of people, they are actually calling us for that reason. It's like they have an interview and they need to have these skills, so they attend our courses. Before, like maybe 20 years ago, when the company started 25 years ago, it was a luxurious skill, real estate financial modeling, and now it has become an essential skill. So we are finding those kind of common phone calls asking us for help in that sense. So great. So Toby, we're talking about the real estate as an excellent career choice, but I would like to ask you another question. Is it necessary? Can people who hasn't been in a real estate degree be still pursue this kind of career?
Yeah, I think if you don't have a real estate degree, it's not the end of the world. It probably depends what angle you want to go down. If you want to become MRICS qualified surveyor, you do need to do an RICS accredited degree to then do that. But if you don't have a real estate degree and maybe you want to go do a master's to do that, there are grad schemes. I know Savills, Knight Frank, CBRE, they do put a certain amount of their grads through they'll put you through the masters whilst you're doing your grad scheme. So there's that ability. But also what we're seeing more, especially client side roles, people are more interested. They're looking for people from a legal background, an ACA qualified background, someone that's done an economics degree, a finance degree, because what people tell me a lot is that teaching you the real estate is not the hard element. Teaching you how to build a really complex financial model, looking at the capital stack, etc., and maybe a JV model, etc., that's complicated. But actually teaching you the real estate element isn't necessarily the complicated element of it. So yes, if you haven't got it, but you've got a good technical, I was just speaking to someone with a mechanical engineering degree this morning, and, pretty analytical, understands development, his options are fairly open. And, we were speaking with a client yesterday who literally said, I want an investment analyst, but I want them to come from a kind of a QS development background. So, we can pull people into different areas. And actually, I think more and more we're seeing is, I think real estate and clients are wanting people looking at things from a different angle. So, I don't want to do MRICS because I'm qualified MRICS and I'm very glad I did it. But, that's not the be end and end all. But I think 10 years ago, everyone in the property industry was MRICS qualified, whereas now it's a lot less, and on job specs it's becoming less of a requirement at times.
Yeah, and also just to add to that, from our perspective as an educational company, we also help those people, they are non-cognate and they want to change careers. And it's just having a X amount of courses, maybe in 5 days, they can just get a little bit of an understanding of the subject. And the good thing about it as well is, obviously, our clients are pretty much your clients. Is everybody is in the same sector. Everybody knows our company. So it's actually interesting when they see our name on a CV, they can actually recognize that, they have done our courses and they are well known, obviously, in the UK and worldwide. So we help those people as well on those kind of to come into this path. Yeah. Yes. So if we have people there on our audience that they are just graduates, I would like to ask about a little bit of guidance on how to navigate and successfully apply for entry-level positions within a graduate scheme program in the real estate industry for both the cognates and non-cognate students.
Yeah, the main thing I would say is just don't be shy. If you're wanting to get on a grad scheme, make sure you apply to all of them, because you think how many people are doing a real estate degree in the UK at the moment, and you think how many grad positions are available. There's probably not enough graduate positions available for those people. So don't be shy and just apply. And I think, write a really good covering letter, because often your CV can be very, I don't want to say the word boring, but very factual, as in like, this is where I went to school, this is where I went to uni, these are the internships that I've done if you're at the junior end. And quite often there's one line on what your interests are, but actually in the cover letter, that is where, if you're applying directly, because actually a lot of the big agencies don't use recruiters for their big grad schemes because they don't need to. Is in your covering letter, you can actually get across your passion. Why would they pick you? Why, and personalize it to the company. If you're applying to Knight Frank, personalize it to that. Why do you like Knight Frank? Is it because it's a private partnership as opposed to Savills being a PLC? Is it because you've followed them in the news and XYZ's happened and they made XYZ hires? Why are you deciding to approach Knight Frank? Why and why should Knight Frank, for example, Knight Frank, because obviously I was there, but why should they then get you in to meet you? And also, once you get on the grad things, I think we were discussing it with Sonia yesterday, is you've got to play the game. If you're in the room there, you'll get interviewed by various partners and they'll chat about kind of what you've done, why you'd be good at it. But just be always very aware. I remember when I was told, when I went in for my assessment days, and there's multiple assessment days, is that they want to see how, if there's a quite quiet individual, which is not a bad thing, sitting in the corner on their own, who goes up and speaks to them and says hello, or do you leave them? Because actually, if you leave them and turn your back, is that the type of person they want in their business? Or do they want someone to put their arm around people when they need it? Do they, don't ever kind of switch off, because when we were all as a group as potential graduates in a room, there was always people on the periphery looking in from Knight Frank, and they were all judging, and if they saw you do something good that they quite like, they'd write down your name, and you'd go through to the next round, etc. So obviously you have to be kind of academically ready for any questions that can come along, but it goes back to what I say, at that junior level, you're not being hired because you've done a job for 3 years. They're going to hire you on your attitude, and are you going to represent the company well? Because graduates get seconded, graduates go to a lot of events, graduates seem to be quite sociable people amongst the whole real estate industry, so they want to make sure that you will represent the company well.
Great, thank you very much for that. So I have, before we move into the Q&A and open the floor for questions, I would like to ask you what sort of jobs you are currently offering at Hanning, and what is the typical interaction process between a candidate and the recruiter?
Yeah, so I think it leads on actually something else, Sonia, you and I were chatting about, is the different type of roles you can get. And very quickly, what I wanted to touch on, because I wish someone got to me early in my career, because if I was to do my career again differently, I didn't really understand that kind of that investor relations equity raising element is there. And actually being quite personable, or I feel, you may say something different, but it's there's so many other elements within real estate that you can do. Typically what we work on is investment analysts, portfolio or fund analysts, debt analysts, asset managers, development managers. We've been doing quite a bit in kind of investor relations, capital raising, because everyone's trying to raise capital at the moment. But have a real good think about who you are. If you are super personable and real people person and not numerical, detailed, diligent, are you better suited to a Knight Frank Savills CBRE as an investment agent, a leasing agent? That doesn't mean to say you can't go client side and be in kind of capital raising or something. And there are areas to go into. But if you're super diligent, super analytical, etc., I would definitely say then focus on that element and go down the client side route of being an analyst. So I think what's quite good early in your career, and I'm happy to speak to anyone kind of after this or separately if they've got any questions of what route they think they can go down. What routes do we see someone that is more that way inclined go down? Because actually there's a lot more options. And I feel sometimes at university, you're only really pushed to go get qualified at a big agency. And, there's plenty of people maybe on this call that's sitting at Cambridge, for example, who that's not what they want to do. They want to go straight client side as an analyst. And of course you can go do that. And then I forget what the other question was that you were asking, sorry. Oh, dealing with the recruiter.
The process, yeah. How does it work between you and the candidate? Yeah,
I think, pick your recruiter that you want, that you like, because that recruiter has to represent you in the right way. I think I often think you sometimes have to be quite strong with recruiter and just very much let them know that you don't want your CV banded around the market. We at Hanning are very much a quality over quantity firm. So that's not our approach, but there are plenty of recruiters do that. And that's not what you want. You want to keep control of the process. But typically what would happen if you got in touch with me, a recruiter, is I'd ask to see your CV. We would have an initial quick phone call, but then we would book in a face-to-face, or if a face-to-face isn't possible, a Teams call. And that will be a 45-minute to an hour-long call where I'll find out everything about you. If you've got a few years experience, I'd be looking at kind of asset class, geographical coverage, day-to-day duties, what's the team structure like, how many deals have you worked on, at what point in the deal are you involved in it, all of that. If you're more of a graduate, it's probably diving into a little bit more, as I discussed before, your attitude. What makes you tick? What makes you different to others? Have you done loads of internships? Are you quite analytical, etc.? And I think at the more junior end of that, we do a lot more kind of hand holding and kind of career advice and what you can maybe do. And quite often it is go speak to Bayfield and try do a modeling course. But we will give you advice on CV, advice on covering letter. But if we are sending you to a client, we do a cover letter ourselves. So that's not something you necessarily need to do. But it is important if you're applying to jobs on your own. And at a graduate level, what I would say, at that real kind of fresh out of university, people often don't always use recruiters because the pool is quite big. So you've got to kind of like really get out there and kind of approach these people. And then, if you get an interview for us, we will call you 1 or 2 days beforehand and make sure that you are fully prepared, that you've done your prep, that we're telling you Jim is super straight shooter and don't kind of waffle your questions, or they're really nice, or it's going to be technical, it's going to be informal, they're going to ask you questions on this, they're going to ask you questions on that. So we'll make sure that you're fully prepared going into it, and then throughout that process just stay really close to you. But if we don't have any roles on directly at that time, I just tell people, look at our website, look at LinkedIn, give us a call. We've got a fairly sophisticated database. So if you're perfect for a role, we will be calling you, hopefully before you call us. But but we just say to people, just don't be afraid to stay in contact.
Great. Thank you very much, Toby. That was a great interview. I think you clearly are passionate about our industry, which is great to see. So we have a few minutes as well to Q&A for our attendees. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask, do please use the Q&A or the chat. And in the meantime, I have my last question that I just wanted to ask, and is very relevant nowadays. So I would like to just know what you think about artificial intelligence that is coming into the real estate and is being used more and more.
Yeah. I think I don't think it's going to overtake anyone's roles immediately and we need to panic. But where I think it is good is data. Everything is becoming so much more data driven. And, using certain AI tools, you can, write an advert on a property that you're selling quicker. But where I would really stress with it, we use it occasionally to write emails, to write blogs, etc. Just use it as a first draft. don't kind of rely on it, because it's quite evident when it is ChatGPT, if you put it in there, you know, you gotta personalize these things. You've got to be very careful with it. But I do see it kind of having a positive effect and getting more data. And actually what we are seeing quite a few of our clients now asking for kind of a data science or someone with a data background, especially as, say, the living sector gets bigger. You know, we're working with clients that got 10,000, 20,000 beds. You know, those are each individual units. You need to know what the pricing is, when people are moving out, how long is it taking to then get someone back in. You know, there's so much data to be read to improve it. We spoke to a candidate recently, and his one sole aim was to increase the revenue by 1%, but just at looking at data. But, you know, that was a multi-billion AUM business. So actually 1% is a massive dial for them to get it up. And that was purely
Definitely.
by data driven. And, you know, so if you can use AI, I think it will be a positive. It's just kind of making sure you use it correctly, because if you don't, you just will be found out.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Toby.